and welcome to another episode of Other Items of Interest. I'm your host, Jack Zablocki. On this week's episode, we have killer robots who can help find a Bigfoot statue stolen from a Florida mattress store, and a puppy with a tail growing out of its face. That and more on this week's Other Items of Interest. Hello and welcome to another episode of Other Items of Interest. I'm your host, Jack Zablocki. How are you today? I'm doing well. Just wanted to make note, next week is Thanksgiving week, and as such, I don't feel like doing a regular podcast. So, in the absence of that, we'll be doing a best of edition of Other Items of Interest. It will be best of poops and farts in the news. I know it's not very highbrow. It's a little juvenile. So be it. Deal with it. Other than that, we have some good and some bad news for you on this introduction. First, the good news. Last week we did a story about a small town in New Jersey that was being terrorized by turkeys. It was a over 55 community of seniors. I don't know if 55 is considered a senior or not. I think 65 would be a senior. But it was an over 55 community. There's about 40 to 60 wild turkeys, keeping people from leaving their homes, getting in their homes, getting in and out of their cars. It was a nightmare for those people. The good news is somebody's doing something about it, finally. This comes from usnews.com. I'll quote them right here. The State Department of Environmental Protection will trap scores of turkeys that have descended on a retirement community in Toms River and relocate them. So that's good news. Turkeys will be trapped and relocated, and people can get back to their normal lives. Now the bad news. We often do we've covered a story on the show about a hotel in the Yukon that has a special cocktail called the sour toe cocktail. And I think it's either tequila or whiskey. I don't know. I don't remember which. But it's a regular shot. But in the glass is a mummified human toe, hence the name sour toe cocktail. And rule is when you take the drink, the toe has to touch your lips or your teeth or your tongue. Can't swallow the toe, that's a no-no. But that's the sour toe cocktail. Well, bad news is the bartender who created the drink has passed on, as sad as it may be. I'm going to read this from canoe.com. It's a Toronto website. A ceramic urn in the shape of a human toe will soon hold the ashes of the founder of the legendary sour toe cocktail, the whiskey drink that comes with the touch of a pickled human big toe. And that's right, it is the big toe. It's not just any toe, it's the big toe. Dick Stevenson, the former Dawson City, Yukon bartender, known by his nickname Captain Dick, died last week, but his daughter said Sunday his spirit will live on as long as sour toe cocktails are being served. So that is a nice sentiment. Our condolences. We have covered the story a few times on the show. One, there was a guy competing a marathon in the Canadian Arctic, and he couldn't make it through, but he did get a severe frostbite on his toes. So a nurse had the story that I read. I've read a couple of iterations of the story, and both have been different. A nurse who was tending to him told him about the sour toe cocktail and that he should send his toe off to the hotel, to the bar, and that would be the new toe. They were looking for a toe. I don't know if someone stole it or it was swallowed or what. I did learn there is a fine if you do swallow the toe. I don't know how they enforce that, but there is a fine. Anyway, he sent his toe off, and they have a new toe. So that was the first story, and then second story was the man actually going to the hotel to take a shot of his toe in the sour toe cocktail. So sad story, but he does live on with the drink, so that's something. On today's show, we're going to start out soft. Last week we came on a little strong. We did a story about a perforated bowel. I don't want to recover that right now. You can go back and listen to it if you missed it. But I realized after the fact that was kind of a hard way to start the show. And it was a show of mostly bad news, too. So we're going to start out soft this week with a puppy with a tail growing out of its head. Other than that, we have interesting stories. They're not terrible stories like last week. Yeah, there's all sorts of stuff. I don't want to get into it here. We can just go on with the show, I think. There is a story of a bucket of hot diarrhea I will warn you about. That's probably the grossest thing on the show. Other than that, it's just weird stuff. Just your normal weird stuff, as it is. So with that, let's get on with it. I think so. Okay, starting out soft this week. Narwhal, the furry unicorn puppy, has extra tail on his face. This comes via UPI.com. A puppy in the care of a Missouri nonprofit is going viral after photos and videos posted online showed the extra tail he has growing out of his face, making him a furry unicorn. And there's a video on the site. You check the show notes at www.otheritemsofinterest.com. Check the link and you can see the video, or at least see a picture of the puppy with a tail growing out of its face. It's kind of like right between its eyes. It's not symmetrical, but it's still a cute puppy. Max Mission, Cape Girardeau dog rescue nonprofit, said the puppy was dubbed Narwhal, the little magical furry unicorn, after being found living on the streets with frostbite Saturday. The 10-week-old puppy had a growth on his forehead described as an extra tail growing in the wrong spot. Narwhal has become a viral star after photos and videos were posted to social media, and his pictures were shared by popular Twitter account We Rate Dogs. That is We Rate Dogs. If you want to check it out. I want to make sure I pronounce that in an all-right fashion. The rescue said Narwhal's frostbite is healing nicely and he appears to be in good health, save for some common worms that are being cleared up with treatment. The puppy's viral fame has led to an influx of attention from animal lovers seeking to adopt Narwhal. Everyone is super interested in him, a Max Mission representative told CNN. We are hopeful they are seeing the other available dogs as well. And I wouldn't mind having a little dog with a tail growing out of its head. I assume it has a tail on its back end, too. They don't say in the article. So there's that. Starting out soft. Remember that. Starting out nice. No talk of a perforated bowel. Okay? Good. And keeping in line with out-of-place body parts, from the MontrealGazette.com, Chinese man finds tooth that's grown in his nose for 2 decades. One could say this Chinese man's nose had plenty of bite. I don't really even know what that means. A 30-year-old man had to have a tooth removed from his nose after it had reportedly grown in his nostril for 20 years. According to Chinese television station Hailong Zhang TV, Harbin, China, resident Zhang Binshang visited a hospital last week after having a clogged-up nose for 3 months. 3 months, clogged up nose. When doctors examined the man to find out what was causing the blockage, they were shocked to find it was caused by a tooth that had been knocked out of line during an accident when the man was 10 years old. According to Zhang, He had 2 teeth knocked out as a child after falling from the 3rd floor of a mall in 1999. He's lucky to have. Kids can survive anything, usually. A 3rd floor fall would kill an adult, wouldn't it? I would think so. After the fall, the man said he managed to find 1 broken tooth. Little did he know that the missing tooth was actually lodged inside his nasal cavity where it continued to grow. That's crazy. Chang reportedly received 60 stitches to mend his face after the fall, with no discomfort in his nose until 3 months ago, when his schnoz was blocked after a cold. The man said he struggled to breathe, couldn't sleep at night, and smelled something funky in his nose. Well, that's where you smell stuff in your nose. Like, how could he tell it was in his nose from the smell? That's what I'd like to know. Be looking all over for the smell. Last place I would think it was coming from inside my nose. During the hospital visit, doctors noticed a dark shadow with high density in the back of Chang's nasal cavity. It looked a lot like a tooth, Dr. Bai Zhibang, deputy director of the Ear, Nose, and Throat Department at 4th Affiliated Hospital of Harbin Medical University, told Pair Video. Another doctor, Dr. Zhu Bin, said the tooth was uprooted and was pushed into Chang's nostril thanks to the fall's impact, where it rooted and continued to grow. The abnormal growth is known as an intranasal retained tooth and can be caused by developmental problems or physical damage. Heilongjiang TV reported a tooth growing in one's nostril is rare and affects between 0.1 and 1% of the population. Very little chance this to happen to you. You need not worry. It took doctors half an hour to remove the 1 centimeter long tooth out of Chang's nose. It does sound uncomfortable to have a tooth growing in your nose. It wasn't huge, but still, you don't want a tooth in your nose, I wouldn't think. And from OregonLive.com, towering 30-foot poo emoji arrives at Portland's Pioneer Courthouse Square in support of World Toilet Day. I did not know there was a World Toilet Day, but happy World Toilet Day to you. And consider this a little preview for next week's Best of show, Poop and Farts in the News. Maybe that wasn't such a good idea for a Best of episode, but what's done is done. There are a lot of pictures for this article, so check the website in the show notes, find the article, and check out the pictures. They're interesting. And this is reminiscent of a story we did some months ago. There was a Japanese museum, poop museum in Japan, that had a lot of cute poop items. Everything was adorable, even though it was poop. A 30-foot giant poo emoji has sprung up in downtown Portland's Pioneer Courthouse Square. The big brown inflatable spectacle, provided and organized by Poo Paris, was designed in part to support World Toilet Day, an international annual event that works to drive attention towards the global sanitation crisis. It's not just a big brown balloon. Visitors can tour the inside, watch light projections, and sit on non-operational toilets that have interactive iPad tablets. I worry for the inflatable poo emoji in downtown Portland there, it being destroyed in some way. I don't know if they have guards standing by to protect it or what, but I don't want somebody sticking a knife in it. That would be wrong. The kid-friendly attraction is free, and for every visitor, $2 are donated to the World Toilet Organization by Poo Paris. Hours run from 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. until Tuesday. This podcast comes out after the fact, so it doesn't really matter. And if you're not in Portland, what are you going to do, fly here for that? I don't think so. Poo Paris plans to take the giant inflatable to over 20 cities across the country. So, good news for you. Check out Poo Paris. See if it's coming to your city. you may be in luck. You may have a chance to visit the giant inflatable poo emoji. And again, there are a lot of pictures. They're worth taking a look at. There's beautiful Pioneer Square, courthouse, and a giant turd next to it. Lovely. We love a good Bigfoot story on the show. Unfortunately, they are few and far between. And that is the case in this case. From the MiamiHerald.com, a $3,000 Bigfoot was stolen from a Florida mattress store. Cops need you to help find it. He's 8 feet, 300 pounds, and was stolen from a mattress store last month, according to Boynton Beach Police. The $3,000 Sasquatch statue was in front of Mattress Monsters, that's Monsters with a Z, and is believed to have been stolen sometime during the week of October 6th through 13th, police said. Officers have had a hard time tracking down the legendary creature. Police said there is no video surveillance of the theft. The owner also didn't report it missing until the end of the month. The store didn't realize it was missing right away due to there being a lot of other large decorations outside for Halloween, Boynton Beach Police wrote on Facebook Wednesday. Large decorations seem to be the store's holiday signature. A December 2018 photo uploaded to Google Maps shows the 8-foot, 300-pound statue standing next to Frosty the Snowman. While it's possible Bigfoot decided to visit his Florida cousin Skunk Ape, police believe multiple people were involved in the statue's theft. If you've seen the life-size monster, know who has it or where the police can find it, call Detective Daniel Whitefield at the number I'm not going to give on a podcast. It's not exactly the easiest thing to hide. We don't need your name, just Bigfoot's location, Boynton Police said. So if you know something about this stolen Bigfoot, speak up. It's the best you can do for this mattress company. They're missing their statue, and you can see pictures of the statue on the website, on the MiamiHerald.com website. I guess it looks like a Bigfoot. Looks like a large ape with a man face. He's in a weird squat position. That's all the news I've got. So that's the description. If you're looking for it, please help find it. And now we get into the crime stories. I don't know if this is a dumb criminal or what. I guess it is sort of a dumb criminal. From NBC12.com, man makes large bank withdrawal, gets robbed by his bank teller in home invasion. Maryland authorities said a bank teller went to the home of a man who made a large withdrawal earlier in the day to rob him. The Hartford County Sheriff's Office responded to the 78-year-old man's home in Bel Air on Monday. Deputies determined he was assaulted and robbed by 19-year-old Nathan Newell in a home invasion. Sheriff Jeff Gawler has seen a variety of criminal cases during his long law enforcement career, but these circumstances were unusual for him. In 34 years of law enforcement, I can't think of another case where it's almost like reverse bank robbery, Gawler said. Investigators believe Newell forced his way inside the victim's home, but another person inside was able to intervene during the home invasion. Newell would run away before deputies arrived, but he was seen on a doorbell camera, and that this guy didn't wear a mask, and that helped detectives track him down. He was arrested at work on Thursday. The bank is cooperating in the investigation. The details stunned some who live in the area, including Jennifer Klein, who has lived on the block where the home invasion happened for 15 years. You have to mind everything nowadays. The bank, the store, anyone can be watching you, Klein said. Wise words from Jennifer Klein. The two inside the home were treated for injuries sustained during the altercation and have since been released from the hospital. So, happy ending to this story. Dumb criminal is caught. People are not injured too badly. And we get on with our lives, right? Right. In further news, I don't even know what that means. You hear it sometimes. In further news, from NPR.org, 3 Indiana judges suspended after White Castle brawl that left 2 of them wounded. And wounded is an understatement because they sustained gunshots. Back in May, 3 Indiana judges got into a fight. It was the crescendo of an incident brimming with colorful details. A gaggle of judges drinking the night before a judicial conference, a failed attempt to visit a strip club called the Red Garter, a brawl in the parking lot of an Indianapolis White Castle. The altercation apparently started sometime after 3 a.m. when one of the judges, Sabrina Bell, raised a middle finger at 2 men yelling from a passing SUV, and ended after one of those men shot 2 of the judges. This is just bad news. In between, the 3 judges took a number of actions that discredited the entire Indiana judiciary, according to an opinion posted by the Indiana Supreme Court this week, suspending the judges. The court found that the 3, Andrew Adams, Bradley Jacobs, and Sabrina Bell, had engaged in judicial misconduct by appearing in public in an intoxicated state and behaving in an injudicious manner and becoming involved in a verbal altercation. Adams and Jacobs engaged in further judicial misconduct by becoming involved in a physical altercation for which Judge Adams was criminally charged and convicted. The document lays out the events as soberly as possible, but the details remain spicy. While in town to attend a statewide educational conference for judicial officers, 10 hours before the program convened, respondents walked the streets of downtown Indianapolis in a heavily intoxicated state. When Judge Bell extended her middle finger to a passing vehicle, neither Judge Adams nor Judge Jacobs discouraged the provocation or removed themselves from the situation. That's pretty succinct, I believe. The 3 had ended up at a White Castle after trying to go to a strip club at 3 a.m. and finding it closed. A 4th judge went into the White Castle while Bell, Adams, and Jacobs stood outside. 2 men in the passing vehicle, Alfredo Vasquez and Brandon Kaiser, parked their car after the gesture from Bell. Bell and Vasquez traded further insults. A physical altercation ensued among the 4 men, with Adams and Vasquez allegedly hitting and kicking each other as Jacobs and Kaiser wrestled on the ground. Kaiser then allegedly pulled a gun and shot Adams once in the stomach and Jacobs twice in the chest. Adams and Jacobs were both seriously wounded and required emergency surgeries. Jacobs was hospitalized for 2 weeks. Bell tried to stop the fighting by pounding on the door of White Castle for help and calling 911 when shots were fired. While at the scene, Bell was recorded on video telling police detectives something akin to, "I feel like this is all my fault," though the opinion notes that Bell was intoxicated enough that she lacks any memory of the incident. Kaiser, who allegedly shot Adams and Jacobs, has been charged with 14 counts related to the brawl, including 4 charges of felony aggravated battery, according to the Indianapolis Star. The court suspended both Jacobs and Bell for 30 days without pay. Adams, who pleaded guilty in September to 1 count of misdemeanor battery, is suspended for 60 days without pay. He was sentenced to 365 days in jail, but was required to serve only 2. You get treated a little differently when you're a judge, I guess. In the White Castle incident, the court said the 3 judges gravely undermined public trust in the dignity and decency of Indiana's judiciary. The court says its penalties are designed not primarily to punish a judge, but rather to preserve the integrity of and public confidence in the judicial system, and when necessary, to remove those who are unfit. Crazy story. Judges. They're supposed to be at the top of their game. They're acting like a bunch of drunk college kids. Can't believe it. Actually, I can believe anything at this point. You do enough stories like this, it's mayhem out there. Pure mayhem. I don't know if I would like to see this while drinking. Maybe I would. Maybe it would annoy me to no end. From KDVR.com, Chicago bar installs over 70 big mouth Billy bass to sing popular songs in unison. Remember the big mouth Billy bass singing Fish that was so popular back in the 90s? Well, a bar in Chicago now has more than 70 of them hanging on a wall singing popular songs in unison. If you're too young to remember or just don't know, the big mouth Billy bass was an animatronic mounted bass fish that would, I don't know if it recorded your voice and it spoke it back to you or what, but it would kind of flop around on the mounted board and its mouth would move to either whatever you said or whatever songs were programmed in it. I don't exactly remember. I was never a big fan. Ashley Albert, co-owner of the Royal Palm Shuffleboard Club, said coming up with the idea and finding the fish was one thing. Choreographing the fish was another. Albert brought in Adam Lassie, a partner of design group Studio Quasi in New York City, to make it all happen. We created custom hardware and software and editing software to make this all happen because this thing doesn't exactly exist, Lassie told WGN. With Lassie's help, the fish now sing 3 songs together. Staying Alive by the Bee Gees, Once in a Lifetime by the Talking Heads, and Choices by E40. I thought it was going to be ridiculous. I don't think I knew just how ridiculous it was going to be, Albert said, but I can already see that people are delighted by it, and I'm just so excited. Again, I don't know if that would be amusing or it would get annoying real fast. I do hope they program more songs into the fishes, whatever. And here's our gross story of the day. This is disgusting. From NBCLosAngeles.com, a bucket of hot diarrhea was randomly poured on a woman by a homeless man. I don't know what makes the bucket of diarrhea hot. I don't remember if it says in the article, but let's get on with it because this is disgusting. A night near the Hollywood Walk of Fame would change a woman's life as she was getting into her car and a homeless man sprinted across Hollywood Boulevard toward her. Heidi Van Tassel was parked in Hollywood after having a pleasant evening out with friends at an authentic Thai restaurant. Suddenly, a man randomly pulled her out of her car, dragged her out to the middle of the street, and dumped a bucket of feces on her head, Van Tassel said, and public records confirm. It was diarrhea, hot liquid. I was soaked, and it was coming off my eyelashes and into my eyes, Van Tassel said. Paramedics who came to treat me said there was so much of it on me that it looked like the man was saving it up for a month. That is gross. I don't need to say how it's gross. It's gross. I'm just reacting. It's nasty. Van Tassel was rushed to Hollywood Presbyterian Hospital after the grotesque attack where she was tested for infectious diseases caused by contact with the feces. She'll need to be retested every 3 months. It was all inside my car because it was so much. He just kept pouring it and splattering it all over me, she said. She said the Los Angeles Police Department told her they'd investigate the crime, but her phone calls to the department went unanswered. Van Tassel said the police also promised to have their victim's advocate reach out to her to offer services. She said she never got a call. Somebody help this woman. This sounds awful. It's so traumatic. The PTSD that I'm dealing with is beyond anything that I've ever felt, Van Tassel said. There needs to be some kind of help for the victims of these crimes. I don't imagine this happens very often. Anywhere. I wouldn't even know how to deal with it as a victim's advocate. The man who attacked her, identified in court records as Jure Blessings, was charged with battery and taken to jail. Blessings was described as a transient with schizophrenia and psychotic disorders, records show. Well, good thing he's on the street. I mean, this guy sounds like he needs serious help, and he's not getting it. You have failed the people, City of Los Angeles. He doesn't need jail time, he needs mental health care, Van Tassel said. I have empathy for him because he needs help. Jeray Blessings got help, but only for 2 months. He was sent by a judge to a residential facility for people with mental health issues and released in August. Security footage from the business nearby captured the attack, and body cam captured the aftermath as officers responded, but the LAPD and businesses would not release the footage, even when Van Tassel asked to see it. It would probably help her to see that footage and see what she went through from another perspective. Shame on those businesses and the LAPD. It was awful, Van Tassel said through tears, and it changed my life. The Los Angeles City Attorney's Office said Blessings is now back in the community, which worries Van Tassel. I will never ever forget his face, Van Tassel said. What's the next thing he's going to do to somebody? If he would have had a knife, for sure he would have stabbed me. Could be. You never know. Dumping, I don't know why they call it a hot bucket of diarrhea. I think that's just for sensationalism. NBCLosAngeles.com, shame on you. I don't know. It is gross, it is nasty, and it is a sad state of affairs. And now for some robot news. Not just any kind of robots, killer robots, because that's what we need in the world. Autonomous killer robots. From dailystar.co.uk, Chinese killer robots sold to Middle East will leave every human dead. What a cheery title. China is selling its most advanced, fully autonomous military drones with fears that it could lead to a bloodbath in the Middle East. The Asian superpower is reportedly selling AI-enhanced combat drones to the region with potentially disastrous consequences. Professor Toby Walsh of the University of New South Wales, Australia, said they would be impossible to defend yourself against. Once the shooting starts, every human on the battlefield will be dead. This is awful news. U.S. Defense Secretary Mark Esper has said that China is selling drones programmed to decide themselves who lives or dies. And I have no idea how they decide that. He told a conference on artificial intelligence, as we speak, the Chinese government is already exporting some of its most advanced military aerial drones to the Middle East, and as it prepares to export its next-generation stealth UAVs when those come online. In addition, Chinese weapons manufacturers are selling drones advertised as capable of full autonomy, including the ability to conduct lethal, targeted strikes. An Australian outlet, news.com.au, reports that a state-controlled Chinese defense company is negotiating the sale of its Blowfish A3 armed helicopter drone to Pakistan and Saudi Arabia. Dr. Malcolm Davis, an Australian Strategic Policy Institute analyst, says that it is not strange there is no debate over the sales in China. He reportedly said this isn't a surprise. Authoritarian adversaries do not need to conduct the same domestic debate on lethal autonomous weapons as Western liberal democracies, because they are not answerable to their people. There is no ban killer robots movement in China or Russia. The regimes are simply developing and deploying the weapons, and in this case, exporting them to similar regimes in the Middle East. The U.S. military, though, are planning an ethics code for artificial intelligence use. Western countries are planning to tackle the killer robots with unmanned systems which humans can override. Dr. Davis said, "While we will ensure our unmanned systems have humans on the loop with political oversight into use, it is quite possible that our adversaries will equip with fully autonomous lethal systems. That could give them an advantage in a future war." Let's not pretend that the West is any more sane than anybody else when it comes to warfare. It's all crazy. But there are, I believe there are artist renderings of the drones on the site if you want to check them out. They look like little helicopter drones with a machine gun mounted underneath. Perhaps cameras, I can't tell what those are. Doesn't really say. Maybe even a missile launcher, I don't know. But definitely a giant machine gun mounted to a drone. Good news, everybody. And here we are at the end of our show. One last story to top it off. A story we come back to again and again. The Naval UFO sightings. It gets deeper every time. From livescience.com, Navy officers say unknown individuals made them erase evidence of 2004 UFO encounter. And I think we know unknown individuals means men in black, right? I think so. Several Navy officers who witnessed the now famous Nimitz UFO encounter in 2004 say unknown individuals showed up after the event and made them turn over data recordings and videos, according to Popular Mechanics. For several days in November 2004, a Navy missile cruiser sailing around 100 miles off the coast of Southern California detected strange radar signals emanating from an object in the sky. The signals were erratic and didn't seem to match those given off by known aircraft. The Navy then deployed fighter jets to catch a closer glimpse of the strange object, and one succeeded in recording a blurry, black and white video that was, to the government's chagrin, publicly released in 2017, along with 2 other videos of UFO sightings from years later. I'm just tripping all over my words. I apologize. 5 Navy veterans recently spoke to Popular Mechanics about what they experienced at the time. The veterans were part of the Navy's strike carrier Group 11 and were sailing on the USS Princeton on a training mission prior to their upcoming deployment in the Arabian Sea. The strange radar signals came from an object that would quickly change altitudes, sometimes lurking at 80,000 feet and other times hanging around at 30,000 feet, they told Popular Mechanics. The UFO became known as Tic Tac because of its shape. Tic Tac gave off a phosphorus glow at night and would dart around in various directions, said one of the veterans, Gary Voorhees, who looked at the object through binoculars on the ship. Voorhees recalled that sometime after the officers recorded these strange radio signals, 2 people showed up on a helicopter, and 20 minutes later, Voorhees' chain of command told him to turn over the data recordings. His chain of command also told him to delete the recordings on the ship. They even told me to erase everything that's in the shop, even the blank tapes, he told Popular Mechanics. Petty Officer Patrick P.J. Hughes, who was an aviation technician, claimed that his commanding officer and 2 unknown men asked him to turn over the hard drives from the plane. However, Commander David Fravor, one of the pilots who got a close view of the Tic Tac on a fighter jet, told a different story. In various past interviews, Fravor said the videotapes of the UFO disappeared, not because of any men in suits, but because people had unintentionally recorded over them. What? They don't have extra tapes, the Navy? Come on. People are recording over UFO tapes. I don't believe that. Fravor previously told the New York Times that he and Lieutenant Commander Jim Slate spotted the object, which was about 40 feet long. As they descended in the fighter jet, the object ascended to meet them, but then abruptly veered away and disappeared, he told the Times. The details of what happened in 2004, both in the sky and down below, remain ambiguous. To learn more about these Navy witnesses had to say, you can read Popular Mechanics' original feature. And if you want to check out that Popular Mechanics article, I will put it in the show notes, and you can do so. So that's our show for this week. It's a little short. That's okay. There just wasn't much news to cover. I don't know what we learned this week, so let's just end it. You could visit us online at www.otheritemsofinterest.com. You can email us at otheritemsofinterestpod@gmail.com. You can see us on Instagram at otheritemspod and on Twitter at otheritems. So, once again, we say goodbye. And remember, next week is Best of Poops and Farts in the News. I do apologize in advance. So with that, I will say, cue the music. Welcome to the end of the show. This is how it all ends. This is how we say goodbye. This has been Other Items of Interest. I've been Jack Zablocki. I've enjoyed my time with you this week, as I do every week, and I bid farewell. Bye-bye.